I met with Miles Biggs, the marketing director for Ritz-Craft Corporation and the Rusty Rail Brewing Company, and he gave me a tour of the entire facility. We started on the outside of the building.
Just from the very beginning, how this whole concept came about to have a brewery here.
Whole concept, it's pretty organic. The owners of the building, Paul and Eric John, they also own Ritz-Craft Corporation here locally and Legacy Crafted Cabinets, which inhabits the other side of the building. So they purchased the building at auction when Yorktown left it, and they put our own cabinet company, Legacy, in the other side. And then for a while, this sat dormant from about 2008 till 2013, and they kept walking the halls. And Paul says it was kind of like the movie Field of Dreams, where the building was whispering to him, saying they could do great things here. And Eric had been a home brewer, and Paul's just very entrepreneurial. So they were looking at what they could do with the space, and they landed on a brew pub. And it's really been a great way for them to give back to the community, to build up a piece of history here, because this building is over 100 years old. It was really at the center of Mifflinburg in the 1900s because of the railroad tracks that run right here. They built wooden truck bodies for Ford and Chevy in this building and then put them on the rails and sent them up to Michigan.
Next, it was on to a private room and wine cellar.
It's our vault room, we call it. It's right off the wine vault.
Oh, neat.
And this is great for having, large family dinners or, birthday parties, and it's really tucked back away from everything.
It's beautiful. And then you have your own wine cellar.
And then, so this is the original, vault doors and vault. We took the safe out and then built up the wine storage. So we have a whole bunch of local wines from places like Shade Mountain, but a lot of California, Australian, different styles, reds and whites. So a lot of people think we might just do beer. We do brew our own beer, but we have a hard cider on tap for a gluten-free option. We have a full wine cellar, and then we have a full liquor license too. So mixed drinks, we can do it all.
The bar is the main focal point when you enter the restaurant.
The bar is just beautiful. Talk about how you designed the bar.
So the bar was, first we thought, hey, we might buy an old bar, like an old 1900s bar. Those are kind of hard to find. It didn't really fit the space the way we wanted. So all the cabinets in the back bar are actually built by Legacy Crafted Cabinets, our sister company. So it was great to be able to showcase their work. And then what you see right here in front of us is just an elbow bar. This is a secondary bar where if you're waiting for a table, there's overflow seating. But then if we walk around the other side, you can see the actual main bar. And it was built from wood from in the building, one of these big beams that we cut out when we removed flooring.
And there's a sunroom for small parties.
So our all seasons room, it's a part of the beer garden, and we have windows that open accordion style, so you can be outside when it's warm, but when it's colder, it's a whole wall of windows, so it feels like you're outdoors all season long. And it's in part of that was built on top of the building, so it's not the original structure, but it's under that open timber from Montana. It's really cool, really beefy wood.
So it was in addition to the original facility?
In addition to the original building, yeah.
On the restaurant floor is a piece of automotive history.
This is a 1923 Ford Model T stake body truck that was actually found in a barn not too far from here, and it was built by the Mifflinburg Body Company. And that was the company that operated in this building, building wooden truck bodies for Ford and Chevy. So we pulled it out of a barn and had it restored by a gentleman named Len Krautheim here locally. And it runs. We have it parked here to display it, and we might take it in a parade or something down the line, but we have this truck downstairs and another truck upstairs that I'll show you that were both built in the building, and we're just happy to be able to display a couple pieces of history here, show people what used to be built right here in Mifflinburg and out of this building.
Upstairs there are murals, another bar, and another vehicle, and a large party room.
Want to talk about refurbishing material. All the railing balusters throughout the restaurant are made from old assembly line chain that was actually from in the building. When they were making cabinets on this side, they put the cabinets on the chain to run it through the ovens to dry it. So we took it, chopped it up, welded it rigid, and now it's the railing balusters throughout the brewery. So at first glance, it looks like just chain, but it's really neat to know that it came from in the building.
It's really
The staircase, too, was built from the tongue and groove that was where our murals are now. When we took out that floor, this was the subfloor beneath the hardwood, and repurposed it to make the treads for the stairs.
Wow.
And everything down to the nails, it's square head nails instead of modern day nails. So it's the type of nail they would have used back in the 1900s when this building was built.
There's lots of animal heads up here.
There are. Yes, this is our game room for two reasons. All of the wild game mounts on the wall, and then also all the games that are out there all to play. We have pool tables, shuffleboard, foosball, darts, video game tables that are loaded with all sorts of old school Atari games. And then all of these wild game mounts were actually hunted by Paul and Eric's father, Paul Sr., and it's part of his collection. He was moving and looking to downsize, and Paul and Eric jumped at the chance to be able to display them. It's quite remarkable. It's from all over the world, from Africa and Scotland, Mexico, the United States, Canada.
I bet it's a conversation starter.
It is a conversation starter, yeah.
And there's another vehicle back here.
There's another vehicle. This is a 1917 Ford Model T Huckster wagon. It's actually the same wood body style that you can see being built in one of our murals. So this was found at a local estate sale, and the really neat part about this truck is that it still has the golden tag on it that says the Mifflinburg Body Company. So there's absolutely no doubt that this was built in the building. And just like the truck downstairs, it does run. We brought it up in one of the old freight elevators and then parked it right there. Wow. So it's a pretty neat piece of history.
And it fit in the elevator.
It fit in the elevator, yes, big elevators. And this one was also restored by Len Krauthheim.
Wow.
In the vein of repurposing materials, like the bar downstairs was built from a wooden beam, this bar was built from an old loading dock door that was original to the building. The door was, chopped up, and then we put it back together. So you see all the, the 45 slats that you see in a lot of loading dock doors that are hanging around here. We took the original door and made it into the bar. So the bar is actually a piece of the building.
And then it was on to the beer.
So first I just need your name and title for me.
Yep. Michel Spoosens, head brewer.
Okay. So how do you make beer?
We mill our grain. We have our own mill here, so we can mill it however we want it, the setting, how fine we want it, how coarse we want it. So we start that. We mill in the day before. Then the morning of when we brew, we mix our grain, our crushed grain, with water. It sits in almost like a giant tea bag, if you would say. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to extract all the sugars from the grain. So during that process, which takes about an hour, we collect the sugars. Then we'll actually recycle it, push all the sugars towards the bottom. And then we'll collect it into our brew kettle, and as we're slowly collecting our wort, we'll actually sparge with more hot water, and the hot water pushes down on the rest of the sugars. And once we collect about 500 gallons when we brew a batch. We'll bring that wort up to a boil, and from the boil we add our hops. We can add any kind of flavorings if we do. We've done orange peel in certain beers, pumpkin when we put in it, cinnamon, anything you can think of nowadays we could put in there. Then we boil it for anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the beer style. And then what we do next is we run it through a heat exchange, cool it down as quickly as possible, and we run it into one of our 5 fermenters. Once all the beer is in, we pitch the yeast. The yeast eats all the sugars inside. That creates the alcohol. It sits in there for about 7 to 10 days, depending on the beers that we make. Most of our beers are ales. We actually take the yeast out and then move it into one of our holding tanks, our bright tanks over here. From there we drop the temperature down to like 32 degrees. We carbonate it, and then from there we either bottle it or keg it.
Wow. So how much beer is in this room right now?
About 5,000 gallons probably.
So if it's sitting every 7 days, so you're constantly making beer?
Yes, we usually brew anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week. That's what we've been doing lately.
That's amazing.
So we'll brew anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 gallons a week.
With the bottled beer, you're obviously in a lot of different areas across.
Yeah, right now we're in about 35 counties across Pennsylvania. So as far west as Erie, and as far east as Allentown, and then pretty much up to the New York border. We haven't hit any of the major markets like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, or Harrisburg yet. We'll do that after we expand the brewing capacity. But it's been a really crazy ride to see how fast it's taken off, especially outside of our local area, because here everyone knows about it, they've been excited about it, but to see it take off in Erie just because the beer's good, not because they know where the building is, it's been really very cool to see.
And a special thank you to Miles Biggs for giving us that tour. Allie Stevens, News Radio 1070 WKOK.